Cruelty is a blade and, like all blades, can rebound. They turned it against you, with arrogant certainty relishing the moment, believing it would leave you shattered, broken, reduced to dust and defeat. They smirked at the sight of pain in your stare, mistaking it as weakness, as surrender, but they misjudged that pain was not an ending, it was a spark. Cruelty became fuel for a fire, once barely alive, and when caught flame it roared hotter and wilder than anything they had ever imagined. Suffering has a strange way of reshaping those who learn how to command it. Instead of collapsing beneath the weight of cruelty, you absorbed it, shaped it, allowed it to carve you into something unfamiliar. Every wound, every insult, every treachery sharpened your will, strengthened your mind, hardened your soul. The cruelty they thought would break you became your shield, each scar a proof of your rebirth. It was their gravest mistake, believing you could be broken, believing you would fall, but you adjusted, you endured, and now you are far more lethal. The crowd looked on, expecting their cruelty would destroy you. It was a spectacle, a show meant to shame, to demean, to ensure you stayed down. But from that shame arose defiance, an unyielding flame that refused surrender. They drew blood, yes, but they uncovered something elemental, something unyielding. What they never saw is that cruelty is a double-edged weapon, one that slashes both ways. And while they rejoiced in their short-lived triumph, they failed to see the monster they had created. Your silence afterward was unnerving. They expected fury, expected a violent and chaotic response, but you waited in stillness, letting the pain harden, letting it flood your veins like molten iron. You rebuilt quietly in the dark, scheming, preparing. Their cruelty stripped you of everything to lose and gave you all to gain. A deadly formula. When you finally returned, it was with a calm that froze their blood, a quiet certainty that carried power. You were no longer reacting, you were measured, deliberate, and merciless. Regret has a way of sliding in, slowly gnawing at the corners of the mind. Those who live by cruelty never foresee the wheel to shift. They thought they had triumphed, believed their acts were righteous, that strength was in their grasp, but strength is fleeting and karma has a vast memory. The same ones who celebrated your agony now live, looking behind, haunted by the truth that justice is near. Cruelty may win moments, but it never wins wars. The balance always returns. People often overlook that true strength lives in endurance, in the ability to bleed and still rise. What cruelty never sees is that pain forges power, that desperation creates brilliance by trying to destroy you. They only fortified your will, made you sharper, colder, more unyielding. They stripped away your innocence but handed you clarity, a new vision of just how merciless the world can be. And once you see reality without illusions, you become something cruelty can never conquer. The moment came when the scales shifted and their cruel laughter was drowned by uneasy silence. The order reversed, and suddenly they were the ones trembling, exposed. They discovered too late that cruelty always breeds repercussions that karma never forgets. A single debt, what was once their entertainment, became their horror as the monster they built closed in you, possessed all the power now. Each move deliberate, each strike calculated. The board had shifted, and they realized in dread this was a game you were destined to win. Their fear was visible. The same ones who mocked, who laughed, who taunted had no idea what it meant to be truly afraid. But now, before the very creature they had unleashed, they understood. You stood as their living nightmare, the reflection of every mistake they had ever made. Every glance, every word dripped with the reminder that you were no longer the prey but the predator, and predators never forgive. Their empire built on cruelty began to fall. The control they once gripped slid through their hands, and they could only watch what had been their weapon turned into their downfall. Each act of cruelty echoing back like a curse. It was poetry in motion to watch them decay, to see the terror they once inspired staring from their own eyes. They had misjudged you, forgotten that when the human spirit is tested, it either shatters or becomes indestructible, and you became indestructible. All cruelty grows from weakness. Cruelty pretends to be power, but at its core it is born from insecurity, from the gnawing terror of being nothing. Those who wound others, who drink from their suffering, are not strong. They are fragile, desperate to bury their emptiness. They imagine that by inflicting pain they elevate themselves, that by breaking others they become whole. But cruelty is the coward's blade, wielded by those too feeble to fight their own. Demons, it is a hollow mask to hide, weakness to feel significant in a world that ignores them. Their jeers, their venom, their cruel mockery are all shields, fragile walls to disguise the hollowness inside. The powerful do not crush others to feel mighty, they draw strength from raising others through compassion, through mercy. But the fragile, the timid, the afraid, they wrap themselves in cruelty, mistaking the ability to inflict pain for authority is a mask worn by broken souls, projecting their cracks onto the world, running from their own reflection. It's a theater of smoke and mirrors, a fragile illusion they cling to even as the fractures widen. Cruelty shouts, but strength whispers. Those who are truly powerful never need to announce it or wound others to prove themselves. They stand firm, with grace, with patience that no cruelty can undo. The weak can't grasp this, they believe. Strength lies in numbers, in power, in domination. They never see that true strength is steadfast, patient, and unstoppable. It is the kind of strength that bends but does not break, that holds when tested, and that's why their cruelty always fails. It is built on fear and fragility. Behind every tyrant is a frightened child, someone who learned early that hurting others made the world seem smaller. They never outgrew it, never found a better way to survive, so they strike out hoping to feel larger, hoping to numb the fear inside. Yet deep down, that terror gnaws at them, keeping sleep from their eyes. They've erected a kingdom of cruelty to ward off the world, but even they know stands on sand, ready to crumble at any moment. False strength is a hollow substitute for the real thing watching them. You see it clearly, the trembling hands behind the fists, the frailty hidden behind bravado. It would almost be tragic if it weren't so pitiful, the way they cling to their illusions, the way they act the part even as the stage begins to tilt. Cruelty works only when the victim cannot see through it, when the target believes in the authority of the wielder. But the instant you recognize the fragility beneath the power shifts. You see them for what they are, desperate, fractured souls hiding behind cruelty. The strongest endure through hell, yet refuse to become monsters. They have known pain, lived through darkness, but emerged with their humanity intact. They could have let suffering turn them vengeful, to strike back at the world, but they chose another path. A choice the weak will never comprehend. Cruelty is simple, the road of least resistance. Kindness in the face of pain, mercy after betrayal. These are the marks of true power. The cruel can only envy such might, even as they attempt to destroy those who possess it. You learned that truth in the hardest way. You endured the blows, the mockery, the betrayals, and let them mold you not into cruelty, but into something indestructible. Cruelty was your teacher, a merciless guide that revealed the scope of your own power. You grew wiser, stronger, more capable while they fed their weakness with the suffering of others. You forged your strength with every trial you endured, and now you are unyielding, a fortress that rises high, immune to the storms they thought would break you. What they never grasped is that their cruelty strengthened you. It sharpened your spirit, honed your focus, and turned you into something far beyond what they could ever imagine. Their weakness, their pathetic attempts to bend you to their will only empowered you. They built you, unknowingly constructed the very force that would haunt them while they grew frail, drowning in their own illusions. You soared like a phoenix from the ashes of their spite. Their cruelty became a gift they never intended to give, a blessing woven in razor wire. The world never forgets acts of cruelty, and neither does karma. What goes around always returns. Those who harm out of weakness eventually meet the consequences of their actions, and now as they face the shadow of what they've created, the fear they once planted in others has returned to them. You cannot harden your heart to the future merely because of the past. You cannot wield cruelty against yourself to justify cruelty to others. Pain leaves its mark, carving scars that cut deep, twisting memories into wounds that never fully heal. It whispers that the safest way forward is to lock your heart away, to become cold, unfeeling, untouched by the vulnerabilities that once left you bleeding. It tempts you with the illusion of safety, a fortress made of of bitterness and fear, but that fortress becomes a prison, a place where you keep the world out and also trap yourself in. The future holds no promise in a heart turned to stone. Growth cannot thrive in a soul hardened against hope some take the pain they've endured and let it rot them from within. They become the very thing they once despised, wielding cruelty as shield and sword, striking first to avoid being struck. They justify their darkness, telling themselves the world is harsh and only the cruel survive. But cruelty does not bring strength, only emptiness. It's a hollow imitation of power, one that erodes the soul even as it creates the illusion of control. Harming others never heals the wounds inflicted upon you, it only deepens them. The hardest truth to learn is that the past cannot be undone, no matter how much cruelty you unleash. In its name, vengeance is a hollow pursuit, one that keeps you chained to the very things you seek to escape. To let the past dictate your future is to surrender the keys to your freedom, to let pain and betrayal drive your life forward. The future deserves more than the shattered fragments of your past. It deserves a chance to be different, to be more than a continuation of the same cycle of hurt and retribution. Healing demands courage, the kind of strength that cruelty will never grant. It asks you to confront the pain head on, to understand that the past shaped you but does not define you. The moment you release cruelty, you reclaim the power to shape your own destiny. Yet many are too timid to claim it. They cling to hardness, mistaking it for strength, never realizing that true power lies in remaining soft, in staying open to a future untouched by the past. You cannot grow whole by breaking others, using cruelty as a shield for your wounds only leaves you more shattered, more adrift. There is no victory in causing pain, no salvation in spreading suffering. The only way to shatter the cycle is to face the darkness within, to meet the pain and choose not to let it command you. Yet some never learn this. They become trapped, consumed by the hurt they refuse to acknowledge. They wield cruelty like a torch, blind to the fire consuming their own soul. The future is not bound to repeat the past unless you surrender it. So every day offers a chance to rise higher, to become stronger, kinder than what hurt you. To harden your heart is to deny yourself the chance to heal, to live beyond fear and anger. Yet the weak cling to their cruelty as if it justifies them, as if hurting others balances the scales. But the scales tip further into darkness, the weight of unhealed wounds dragging them into the abyss of their own making. It's easy to crave the power that cruelty seems to offer, the illusion of control, the fleeting sense of superiority. These are intoxicating but hollow, a temporary patch on a soul still bleeding. Real strength comes from choosing to heal instead of harm, refusing to let the past dictate your actions. This choice terrifies those who have only known survival through cruelty. They remain prisoners of their own darkness. Those who let the past fall away, who refuse it as an excuse to harm, find a different kind of power. It is not flashy, not meant for admiration, but it is unbreakable. It is the power of a heart that feels deeply without fracturing, the power of a spirit uncorrupted by the darkness endured. It is a quiet strength that outlasts the brittle facade of cruelty. But for those who never learn, who lock their hearts and wield cruelty alone, life becomes a desolate battlefield. You cannot use your pain to justify becoming a monster. The world is filled with those who do, letting themselves become what once hurt them, thinking it will erase the pain. But monsters are never free. They are bound by chains of their own, making haunted by the demons they have unleashed upon others. They never escape the past because it rides with them, a curse growing stronger with every cruel. Their hearts become graveyards filled with dead dreams and unhealed wounds, a wasteland left behind by those who never learn. Life moves relentlessly, testing the very fibers of who we are. Yet amidst the chaos, one truth remains unshakable. You are worthy of respect, not just from others but from yourself. Too often people rush to give what they deny themselves, offering kindness outward while neglecting the soul within. They fight for others' well-being, yet let their own dignity crumble under the weight of unspoken pain. No one else can grant you the respect you refuse yourself. It begins in the quiet corners of your own heart, in the way you carry yourself through this brutal, beautiful world. To be respected is to recognize your own value, your essential role in the world's unfolding narrative. You are not an afterthought, not a side character in someone else's story. Your presence matters. You influence others in ways you may never fully see. With that importance comes responsibility, a moral obligation to care for yourself, to preserve the essence that defines you. Neglecting that is to rob the world of something irreplaceable. Consider how you treat those you love. You would move mountains for them, shield them from harm, speak words of comfort. When the world grows heavy, you show patience, understanding, ready to lift them when they fall. Why then treat yourself with less compassion? To honor your existence, you must act as though you deserve the same respect you freely give. Become your own guardian, your own sanctuary. Caring for yourself is not luxury, it's necessity, an act of defiance in a world eager to break you. Hold yourself with dignity even when no one watches, especially when no one watches. Make choices that safeguard your well-being, even if it means walking away from those who drain your spirit. Honor your body, your mind, your heart, not just for yourself, but for all who love and need you. You are a force, a life worth cherishing, and you have every right to act like it. Each time they tried to break you, they only made you more determined to honor your own being. Their cruelty became the fire that forged your rise.